Hello, you're listening to the Saluki Gamescast. My name is Justin Young. This is episode 39 for February 24th, 2023. Joining me, as always, are Alicia Utecht, OJ Duncan, and Ryan Freels. Hey, everyone. How are you doing?
It's that time of the semester, Justin.
It's that time of the semester, Justin.
It is not that time of the semester. It's not even the end of February yet.
Hey, I'm working on my dissertation. It's always that time of the semester.
Okay, well, I'll give you that.
Otherwise, I'm doing well, though, so.
Other than working on your dissertation?
Yeah.
Things are going decently?
Yeah.
Okay, well, other than that being what you're working on all the time,
Yeah.
life is going pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But how are you doing, Justin? We haven't heard from you on that in a while.
I think you asked me last week, actually.
Well, that's a whole 7 days.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so how are you doing?
Well, you should be listening to the podcast, so you are caught up on my well-being.
I didn't say I wasn't listening. I just said I wasn't there.
I'm doing good. It's not that time of the semester, so it's not too chaotic yet. When it gets about April, it'll get to that time of the semester, and things just become pure chaos.
That's fair.
But right now, I'm pretty good. Other than like the weather is driving me nuts. Like we had
Oh my gosh.
in the 70s the other day, and now I'm wearing a sweatshirt. It's crazy weather. So
It was 72 days ago, and then now it's like 34.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, weather-wise, things maybe not so great. But I did.
It's okay. We're not in Snowmageddon 2.0.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm getting the text. My whole family the past 2 days has worked from home because they got 14 inches of snow and 2 feet of snow drifts.
Fun.
Yep.
It's fun to live in the northern part of the country.
It is. I'm jealous. It's February. We should have snow.
I agree.
Waluigi.
I like snow when it's on the ground. I don't like it when it's on like ice and stuff on the sidewalks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that
Ice
sort of thing.
sucks. Ice
But,
sucks.
like,
Snow is good.
Like light, fluffy snow on the ground. That's fine.
Somewhere like Vanilla Ice was listening to this podcast and a single tear rolls down his cheek.
I guess he couldn't handle the pressure.
Ice, baby. Yeah.
I guess the
ice is a baby.
The ice broke under pressure.
Cracked.
Ow, boom. That was a deep cut. I appreciate that joke. No, I once had a friend that, I was hearing a song that was not Ice Ice Baby, but it was also sampling Under Pressure. And I'm like, oh, I love that song, it's sampling. And she's like, okay. And then, all right, well, since you love it, and then tries to put on Ice Ice Baby. And I'm like, that wasn't the original song that had that sound in it. That's from Under Pressure. And on that day, they found out that Vanilla Ice was sampling Queen and David Bowie.
No, there was a difference. It goes da-da-da-da-da-da versus da-da-da-da-da-da.
Still ripping off something I love.
Have you ever seen that interview?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So I guess that isn't funny now that I did that.
I've seen it.
It's
I
okay,
laughed.
to be fair, it's funny because I never actually listened to Ice Ice Baby, so I didn't know it's arguably sampled Under Pressure. And now I'm hearing that it's slightly different, so I don't know. But
Sampled in air quotes.
Yeah, that's really kind of a fun rabbit trail to go down. Like all the lawsuits that went on over sampling of music and everything. Like now we kind of just assume artists are going to do that, but it used to be much more contentious. So it's kind of fun to go.
well, I think recently, the people that did I'm Too, I don't know the band that did it, I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt, tried to
Right said Fred.
Right said Fred, they tried to say, well, Beyonce stole from us. They sampled without our permission, and they're like, no, we didn't. We can even prove that we had your permission. So they tried to make a big fiasco out of it when they're like, no, we have proof that we asked for you. You were all happy about us sampling you. And
Look, Right said Fred needs people to know that they still exist.
see, I will always associate that song with Shrek 2, so I don't even associate it with them.
Honestly,
so.
same. I like Prince Charming. That is the number one thought in my head with that song.
Shrek 2 is changed who we associate music with now.
Fact.
That-
Hallelujah.
No, that was Shrek 1.
Oh, is that Shrek 1?
But like,
No, Shrek 2, though, gave us, some people think of, the original song with Ooga Chugga, Hooked on a Feeling. Some people think of Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. Nope. I think of freaking Captain Hook in Far, Far Away Idol singing it terribly.
Why is it Ally McBeal?
Oh, yeah.
and of course the song Hero. I don't associate that with Footloose, which I have a better ending. A way to have improved that movie with a better ending. But I associate that with Shrek 2.
Shrek 2,
wait. Are you saying you can improve Footloose?
Easily.
Shrek 2
Okay,
is
no.
proof that the second can be better, whether it's a second version of a song or a second movie, because Shrek 2 is completely perfect.
Isn't Shrek 2 the one that uses All-Star?
No, that's the first one.
Is it the first one? Man.
And
I can't
Justin,
keep
I think
the
we need to
soundtracks.
have we need to have a Shrek marathon.
No, we really don't.
And here's how I could improve Footloose. It's you just alternate ending. Kevin Bacon is like to John Lithgow, hey, you're only against dancing because you can't dance, old man. And John Lithgow's like, yeah. And Kevin Bacon's like, yeah. And so they then have a dance off. And then John Lithgow just like humiliates Kevin Bacon and does way better than him. And like Dance kicks him out off the stage. And then like Kevin Bacon leaves in shame and John Lithgow wins. And it's the sad ending. But I like John Lithgow, so I'm happy with it. And that's the end of the movie.
So do you just want them breakdance fighting?
Yes.
That would be entertaining.
Yes, I think that would have been a better ending to a very strange movie.
Okay.
I just want to see
that.
John Lithgow win. All right, that's the real motivation. Or it could have been done from Kevin Bacon's love interest perspective, and it could have been retitled "Bringing Home the Bacon." That's the other way to improve it.
So to be clear, you're saying how to make Footloose better for you specifically.
I think it's objectively better this way.
Ryan's bad movie taste. This has been another episode of Ryan's bad movie corner taste. Next week, he'll be telling us how he can fix Casablanca. They get together in the end. All right, let's move on to what you've been playing. Alicia, I know that you've been doing nothing but playing games this last week.
Oh, of course.
Tell us about it.
I haven't been distracted at all by a kitten who is starting to crawl on counters and bite my nose.
Is he doing it while you're asleep?
Sometimes.
No.
Sometimes while I'm awake. I'm just like, dang it, you're lucky you're cute. Yeah, it has been another busy week. I really haven't been able to play a whole lot of games. I went back and did a little bit more on Pokemon Violet, just kind of casual shiny hunting. I'm not really intense enough to, like, go crazy trying to shiny hunt. But, one of the things with Scarlet and Violet is when there's mass outbreaks of specific Pokemon, you're more likely to find a shiny there. And after you complete the Pokedex, you get the shiny charm, so that also increases your odds. So I've been hitting up the mass outbreaks, trying to find shinies there, but no luck so far. In spite of all of my online friends have like 30 plus shinies, and I'm just like, and then there's me, who has never seen a shiny in game that wasn't guaranteed to be shiny, like the red Gyarados and Johto.
Huh. So are the people who are finding them, are they just playing a lot more so that...
Some of them not really. I don't know what it is with, so some of them, like one of my friends on Twitch does do shiny hunting, and so like for multiple weeks she was shiny hunting Fuecoco. And while she was doing that, she found like Psyduck and I forget, she found 24 other shinies in the time that she was trying to hatch a shiny Fuecoco. And I'm like, how do you just come across these? How does this work?
And they're not doing anything different than what you're doing, as far as you can tell?
As far as I can tell with those, I mean, when they're shiny hunting to like get, like she was doing, there's a method called Masuda breeding So to increase your odds for a shiny Pokemon hatched from an egg. So what you do is you get a Ditto from another continent in the world. So there's a trade code set up to like get Dittos from Europe or Asia or wherever, and then you breed your Pokemon that you have with that Ditto, and that's supposed to increase your odds of getting a shiny from the egg. So like with that, like I'm not intense enough to do any of that, and so but she was doing a lot of that, trying to get shiny Fuecoco, and then while you're running around trying to hatch the eggs, she would just like come across all these different shinies, and I'm just like, we completed the same Pokedex, we have the same shiny charm, how are you getting all these?
Isn't there a shiny food too?
There is, but she wasn't using it
Okay.
every time. I know she used it some of the times, but there were... How many times was I actually on stream when she was... I know there was at least 4 of them that I was on stream that she hadn't done the... Like, she does raids to get the Herba Mystica to be able to increase shiny odds, but then I don't ever see her making the sandwiches. So I'm just like, what are we doing differently in terms of running around to find wild shiny Pokemon?
Oh, that's interesting because, I mean, if it's completely, like a statistical chance, it could just be, it's like flipping a coin, right? Like it's supposed to be 50-50, but it's not ever, I suppose if you do it enough times, it starts to approach 50-50.
Yeah.
But, with something like that where you have a 0.1% chance, let's say, of getting
I think it's
this.
1 in... I think once you get the shiny charm, it goes down to 1 in 659 or something. I'm going to look this up. This is going to bother me.
I'm just impressed that you have that number offhand. Like, I don't think I have any statistics like that offhand in my head.
Only shiny odds because I'm friends with a lot of shiny hunters.
But yeah, I mean, that's interesting to see that people are just being more lucky, it sounds like, right? Like they're not actually doing anything different. They're just getting more lucky, which is kind of frustrating in a game. So. Okay.
So just in general, I was way off. I was missing a number there. The chance of seeing a shiny Pokemon is 1 in every 8,192, or probability of 0.01220703,125% during each encounter.
Try a Pokemon ramp with those numbers.
Okay, I said 0.1, 0 is 0.01, so.
Okay, and then with the Masuda method, okay, that's where I got 600 from. With the Masuda method, without a shiny charm, the rate is 1 out of 683 for a shiny egg. With the shiny charm, the odds are 1 out of 512.
Okay, so
in Scarlet and Violet.
Those are pretty good odds. You sound like you should find one eventually.
Well, but I don't do Masuda breeding because I'm not that intense. I don't. I like shiny Pokemon. I don't care that much.
You don't want to become a dog breeder.
Yeah,
You're not making Labradoodle poodles or puppies in like a back room or something.
Yeah, what did she get to? I think she got to like 1,413 before she got her shiny Fuecoco. So even those Masuda odds aren't really guaranteed.
Right. Well, all right. So more Pokemon, more hunting. The hunt continues.
The hunt continues. The hunt is a very casual hunt, but it continues.
All right, cool. Ryan, what have you been playing?
Okay, well, before I say what I've been playing, I just want to point out I'm insulted that you'd say I would try to improve Casablanca. That is a fine, perfect movie. It would be Citizen Kane I would try to improve. Anyway.
You've been setting on that response for a while.
Yes, I was waiting to say that. I just don't like Orson Welles, right? I get that it's a good movie. I don't like that man. Anyway, so mostly game-wise, like with it's been a couple of weeks since, but I played Mario Kart with Carly, who was on the podcast in my place a couple of weeks ago, and happy to say I still got it with that game. I haven't played that game in years, and I was doing really good. The main issue was that those tiny Switch controllers, my hands were kind of cramping up on them a couple times. So I was like really missing the Wiimote with the wheel, which I understand they have wheels for these too. So I might have to get back into Mario Kart and using those, but you'll probably all be surprised to find out I was using the character Waluigi.
What?
Wow.
Who's that? I don't know.
Ouch. But
Is he a Pokemon?
I mean, I think he's technically Mew 3. Like you play Pokemon, you finally get to Mew 3, and it turns out to be Waluigi. But it was so nice, and it just felt like going back to my younger days playing video games, and I don't think I realized how much I missed playing Mario Kart. I've mostly been doing one-player games on my own, so I hadn't played it in a while. But I still very much love Mario Kart. I'm kind of now thinking of getting my own copy. But there's not much else to say. I don't think there's anything new I can say about Mario Kart. Just it's insane how many levels they have and how well and smooth it plays. Like, it doesn't play much different than I remember playing it on the Wii, but I don't think there's anything you really need to change. Don't fix something that's already perfect, really.
Yeah, if you get that DLC, there's close to 100 levels.
Yeah.
Like, by the end, after all that gets released, and they've got the new Yoshi's Island level coming out in like a month or so. So there's still new content coming out for that game, which is really cool. It makes that game, worth revisiting.
Yeah. I look forward to trying to play that one more. I'm gonna next time me and Carly hang out and we're playing video games, I'm going to specifically request we play that again because it was fun reliving my glory days with that. Other than that, I haven't played much but Marvel's Snap. I've just been having a lot of fun with the fact that I now finally have Spider-Man, and I can make things difficult. Like, I usually don't like to do things that make it hard for people to play their cards, because I don't like it when people do that to me, but I'm not going to lie. Whenever there's a situation where it's like, on turn 5, you have to play your cards here, I love using turn 4 to block that space.
So somebody did that to me last night. Was it you?
Maybe. But I, not gonna lie, in that case, I'm like, but I've just been having a blast having Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my favorite Marvel character. But I've been mostly jumping back and forth with using like the Guardians of the Galaxy and trying to predict when people are going to place their cards, and because I hadn't done that in a while, and I'm having fun going back and doing that. And also, I've been going back and using the Apocalypse strategy, where you keep destroying Apocalypse until he gets like super buff and super powerful. But I recently finally got Death, so I think I'm going to try to make use of Death next and try to build a deck around her. Because during the character can be hard to fight sometimes, but now I have it and I can't wait to use it. Aside from that, it's not a video game I played, but I did start watching the movie Tron, which is video game related, and it's because that I've never watched Tron, but that game piqued my interest. And I started watching, I say that because I have 17 minutes left, and here's why. I think that movie is a very visually awesome movie. It's one of the only movies that I've ever gotten a headache watching, though. Like, something about the visuals of it does, produce a headache in me. Like, strengths about the movie, I do think it's interesting how it touches on a lot of ideas that are still really relevant. So people that are not aware, Tron is about a guy who gets kicked out of a company that's doing corrupt things, and him and some of his other friends that are dissatisfied with the company try to hack into their system, but then he gets trapped into their video games, and he ends up playing with app versions of them, basically, that, are like bots or what. I can't remember what terminology the thing itself uses, but they're basically bots, but they look like programs, but they look like the people that programmed. Yeah. But there's interesting issues of like authorship that come into play, because I'm particularly because that was always an issue in games, like specifically I know with Atari, like they were seen as products that people were making and not like artwork, and those people weren't properly credited for a long time. And then recently with the Roblox video by H Bomber guy talking about how that's still an issue because, people like Tommy Tallarico are trying to take credit for other people's work. And we're not necessarily talking about like games that is like big things made by one person, but made by various people and then one guy coming in and taking credit for it. So like when we talk about people getting screwed over by the company and not being given credit for it, specifically in this case, Jeff Bridges' character who made a bunch of games and he's not being credited for them. This movie feels really relevant still.
Yeah, there's been a lot to blow up recently about that with people being left out of the credits of games.
Yeah.
And and their argument is if we're not in the credits, then how do we prove that we worked on this game?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really big issue with like the Bendy games and with the Hive Swap game that the creator of Homestuck moved on to do, and it's really crappy business practice, particularly when they're like, oh well, we're overhauling everything, so we're just not gonna specifically I remember I watched a video essay talking about Andrew Hussey and Hive Swap, and he admitted in an email, like, yeah, probably some of her work was still in that, but, she just left the company in such a snit that we just didn't want to credit her.
Oh, I hate Hussey.
Hussey is a disgusting human being, but that's neither here nor there. That's another rant for another day. That's another rant for another day.
I'm not familiar with Homestuck. I now definitely don't want to get into it because I saw Sarah Zed's videos on it.
Those are the ones.
And,
yeah.
But going back to Tron, things I also appreciate about it is visually remarkable looking movie. I mean, I know it's like dated visual effects, but there's just nothing else that looks like this movie that I've ever seen. And it does have the problem of I get a headache after a while. But before then, it's really cool to look at. I didn't know that Mobius worked on like the costume designs and stuff like that. And major, as far as like musical score, major work by a trans musical artist, Wendy Carlos. And aside from that, I think the cinematography is really cool, even when we're out of the computer world. Like, just one of the shots of the cubicles, like going up to an elevator and just seeing how far out this cubicle span to where it gets cut off. Like, it's just like this endless set of boxes for people to be fit into, and how, in that case, like, the real world, quote unquote, looks just as like robotic as the digital world. Like how there's kind of this like idea of mechanizing workers that feel because through that sense of repetition and pattern, and how it gives a feeling on that. Things that I think aren't the best. Like, and I don't like diss the movie for this, but like a lot of the characters aren't themselves that interesting. I think the most interesting character in it is Jeff Bridges' character. But it's a world I want to see people do more cool stuff with. So I do want to go and watch the next Tron movie, and Jared Leto is going to be in the third one. No, please.
When you watch the second one, just remember you're not watching it for the plot. You're watching it for the visuals and for Daft Punk.
I'm okay with that. I think I can survive that.
Like, people mock that second film for that, but that's really true of the first Tron too. Like, you're really watching that movie for its style.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when you talk about how that movie looks, like, yeah, that was the thing about that movie, right? People are copying that decades later still.
Yeah.
Like, people don't appreciate sometimes, I think, that sort of glowing neon look and everything that you see everywhere in video games particularly, but you see it in movies and stuff. Like I watched the new Ant-Man the other night, and that borrows some of that, right? Like some of the design and the background of the cities and stuff like is borrowing from that. And
I didn't think of that.
So like, yeah, that movie is extremely extremely like changed the way movies look and the way that games look and everything. And it's still having an impact, 40 something years later at this point. So Yeah, no, I mean, I don't blame you for having that reaction at all because that's
Yeah.
that's what's so cool about that movie.
And like, it makes me want to have like the perfect version of this because like I love those parts so much, and it leaves me hungry in other areas. Like, because like you just said like the plot was the first one, and that's true. But there's like really interesting ideas that it has that it wants to play with, and I want a movie that has story and writing that measures up to the style and also just the ideas it's going into. Because I think that idea of authorship in the digital age is a very interesting idea to keep working with, and I think that's one to keep building on and complicating in how we look at, especially, I'd like to see Tron take on more like regarding like stuff like remix culture and stuff. So
I was about to say, may I offer you some fan fiction in this trying time, but then I realized that wouldn't really hit the visual component though.
Well, but I do think that's why you see Disney keep trying.
Yeah.
Right? Like people like forget the first Tron bombed at the box office, and then the second Tron bombed at the box office. And we're getting a third Tron, and it's because I think everybody knows there's something there if they can just get all those components right. Well,
we had Tron Uprising, but they never really advertised it properly enough.
Right, and we've had video games, and of course the arcade cabinet from the 80s when the film came out is considered a classic now. But, we're getting a ride at Disney World, and there's a reason we're getting all of this because Tron's cool. And, there's a reason we're getting that new visual novel game because, like, Tron's cool, and eventually somebody's going to get it right.
And, like, I think the person they should get to direct a Tron movie is Denis Villeneuve, the guy that did Blade Runner 2049 and the recent Dune movie. And
Sure.
I think he'd be a good choice. Arrival and Blade Runner 2049 are just among some of my favorite movies of all time, too. I think he's excellent at exploring sci-fi, and we already know he can do cyberpunk stuff really awesome. I think he would be a good choice. And do people even like Jared Leto anymore? Like, they're like, why is his name attached to it? Why are like, let's get Jared Leto to be in it? Like,
I have a soft spot in my heart for Jared Leto from My So-Called Life when he was...
I was about to say, it's from My So-Called Life, isn't
Jordan
it?
Catalano.
Because every woman I know of our age still has a soft spot for him from that show.
Yeah,
I still have a soft spot for him from one of the best concerts I ever went to was at the Minnesota State Fair. It was AFI, 30 Seconds to Mars, and Linkin Park. And I love 30 Seconds to Mars. I love Linkin Park. I went for Linkin Park. 30 Seconds to Mars put on the best show. And Jared Leto is a huge part of that. So like I still have a lot of respect for him as a musician, and I still really like him as a musician.
So there's your answer.
I'm happy.
2 of the 4 of us.
I'm happy you all have positive associations with Jared Leto.
I also remember the interesting take that he had on Joker, and that was not good.
See, that's one of the main things I associate him with is Joker from Suicide Squad.
And see, I always think of him as a musician first.
The only thing I think I've seen him do okay in is Blade Runner 2049, and even he wasn't really the more interesting part of that movie.
Sure.
And I think there was another movie I saw him in with Denzel Washington. I can't remember the name of it. But he managed to somehow be super bland and super creepy at the same time. And that's my feelings about Jared Leto. When he plays somebody, he's somehow both bland and creepy. That's my grand.
He was teen angst personified in My So-Called Life.
Yeah.
Along with Claire Danes. They were teen angst.
See, I can appreciate why people, even though she's done problematic shit too, like, I can appreciate why people like Claire Danes. Jared Leto I think I've only seen the bad things with Jared Leto. I think that's part of the thing here. There's things he gets complimented on, and I'm hearing that you've all seen some of that, and I've only seen the things that, like, people are like, what the hell was he doing?
It's Morbin time.
God! Did he actually say that in that movie? I never watched it.
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
No.
I didn't watch it, but I watched the CinemaSins video, and I watched other people going and seeing it. They would have said if he actually said that.
No, I actually watched the movie. He never says it.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I mean, look, it's a bad movie. It's not uniquely bad. So it's not Battlefield Earth, the theatrical version, bad, right? Like it's just, it feels like an early 2000s comic book movie where like the Fantastic Four movies or, that sort of thing where you're
Daredevil.
Daredevil's a good example. More even so the Electra film. It's just like, you're just like, okay, this is just a waste. Like talented people made a completely waste of a movie.
Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Well, that one might be uniquely bad. That movie's
there's actually things about that I kind of like in a what the hell were you thinking? This is kind of hilarious though way.
Yeah, I wanted to add to the discussion when we were talking about people being left off credits. I had an interaction with a woman named Ashley Rochelle on Twitter about 2 weeks ago now. And she had apparently worked on, I believe she worked on the original Metroid Prime and then left. Maybe she worked just on the remaster. But anyways, she basically got put into the credits, but listed under special thanks. And she wasn't given a full credit because she left during the production of it.
That's shitty.
And so, the interaction I had with her is like, this is the reason we need unions. All video game development needs to be unionized. So, like in film, because films are so unionized, that's all set. Like who appears in the credits and, what their titles are and all that. Like that's very set. Somebody works on a film, you can't just throw them out of the credits because, they quit during part of it or something. Or I guess I don't know the exact rules, but like you do have to give people credit. It's set by the union. And so that's something that video games are struggling with right now. So when you talk about, that those issues of authorship, then that's a very real issue today, right now in video games. When you have hundreds of people contributing, are those hundreds of people all getting credit or not? No, they're not in a lot of cases, and that's unfortunate. All right, Ryan, is that everything?
Yeah.
All right, OJ, what have you been playing?
So I haven't really had a whole lot of time. I had a really busy week, which I know none of you know anything about. So, but one thing that I was doing is since the expansion, the DLC is not on mobile games for Vampire Survivors yet. So I've been looking for something because I was playing so much of it. I'm like, hey, I want to play this again. So I'm looking for a different game that's kind of like Vampire Survivors to try and get that same feeling. So I tried one that was called Wizard Survival, which is it's a decent game. There's not a lot of ads. You're not forced to do ads like many of the other survival games. But it's very, very easy in this game to just completely demolish everything. So whereas you have to really work up in Vampire Survivors to get there, in this game, rather than... So I would always use garlic in Vampire Survivors, which would create like a field around you, and anytime anything went into that field, it would get hurt. And once you make it super strong, you start like draining and hit points from enemies and stuff like that. So it was really great. In this game, there are multiple different types of powers. So there's like fire powers, lightning powers, wind powers, light, dark, etc. All of them have a version of that, like garlic, where you just make this field around you, and you can get multiple different types. So you can get 5 or 6 different fields, and they all function slightly differently. But you get a bunch of them, and then it's just demolishing everything, and you just stand there and everything comes. And unlike Vampire Survivors, you get the experience as soon as you kill something. There's gems that you can collect as well for extra experience, but as soon as things die, you just get the experience from them. So you don't even need to try and get an attract orb to pull the experience towards you. You just can start demolishing everything. You can get 5 different types of the garlic, or the field thing. And then, so right from the beginning, if you're lucky and you get those, then you can just sit there and not have to do anything. So it's not as fun.
That's unfortunate because it's stripping, the knock against Vampire Survivors, I think people who haven't played it is, oh, well, where's the gameplay? And there actually is a lot of gameplay. And it sounds like this is what people think Vampire Survivors is.
Yeah. So I'm still going to play it a little more and explore some of the different things because like a lot of the stuff gets really powerful. And there's equipment that you can get from this. So you have the powers, which is different things that do damage and stuff. But then you also have what we see more as in Vampire Survivors is like the items that you pick up that do like passive things, right? So that has those as well. But then it also has equipment that you can pick up that does special things. And some of them make certain powers a lot more powerful. Some of them just do stuff like adding like range or adding or lowering cooldown and stuff. But some of them add special specific things to certain powers. And then instead of a big evolution, like in Vampire Survivors, where it can change to become really big, you can add extra stuff onto them. Like you, for the light version of the field, once you get it to max level, then you can pick either increasing the size by 50% and the damage by 50%, or you can make it so it lasts longer, or you can make it so that it doesn't last as long, but it does like 500% damage, right? So you can really change the things to however you want to play. So that's pretty awesome. I still need to explore it a little more and see what's going on with it because I haven't gotten really very far in it.
And this is called Wizard Survivor, and it's on mobile?
Wizard Survival. Yeah. Okay. And it's on Google Play. I don't know if it's on iOS. So that's fun. There's another... it's a game that I played for a long time. It's AE Mysteries. And essentially, it's a company that made a bunch of different escape room type games. And then they made AE Mysteries, which brings them all together into one app. And there's a bunch of them. And they expand past just being an escape room. And then so there's a ton of different mysteries. And they have different storylines. Like there's Detective Kate, who is she's a police officer. And there's a bunch of different like serial killers and stuff that are coming after her. And she has to go through and solve all these puzzles. Like I think it's the first one that she's in, is like there was like a convention and somebody was showing off their security. And then the person who was in the room showing off their like security systems was killed, and you have to figure out who killed them and how they got around the security and all of that, right? And then there's one that is there's a princess, and like someone came to like take over their country, and so she's on the run and she has to solve all these puzzles to get it. So there's really, it's not like super deep stories, but there's good stories that you're following along with each of these. And I love a good escape room, and I love a good escape room game, video game. So the reason I'm talking about this is they just came out with a new Clue-based one today. And I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I'm very excited to play it. I just recently finished the previous one that came out, and they come out with one maybe once every month or every 2 months.
And what is this called again?
So AE Mysteries. And so they go back and forth between creating new ones and then bringing in their old ones and adding them in this app. There is a little bit of a timer, so you get keys to unlock each chapter. Each thing has between like 3 and 5 chapters. Some of them have a few more. And so you unlock each chapter, and you get a key every like 2 hours. You can watch videos to reduce that timer, and then you can just buy keys. Also within them, there is stars, and you collect stars. Like a bunch of levels will have a hidden star, and like you see it and you tap it and you get a star. And then generally when you beat a chapter, you get 3 stars. And you can use certain amounts to get hints or to just go past the puzzle if you can't finish it. So it's a really, really good setup in there, and I've enjoyed all of them that I've played with it. Some I have had to skip a few puzzles though, and I'm generally pretty good with them, but some of them are just a little too hard for me. I don't think they're too hard for everybody, but they're a little too hard for me. So yeah, I've been going back and looking through a few of those. And then I took a break from Marvel Snap, and I'm coming back very slowly, playing a little bit, because I really don't want to lose all the time I did that first few weeks. Right? So I'm coming back very slowly, giving myself like half an hour to play, and then
No, that's the way to come back to crack.
yeah, I know. Right?
Just a little bit. Work yourself up.
yeah. You could develop a tolerance, and then
We give such good advice on this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
and then we briefly touched on this before. I saw Quantumania. It's very, very good. I really
Still haven't seen it, so don't spoil anything for me.
I won't spoil anything. I appreciated because you already know that it's there. MODOK. I really appreciated their take on MODOK. I really, really appreciated it. I thought it was I don't think it was good if we're talking like, oh, this is a good drama and I appreciate the storyline. But I really appreciated how MODOK fit into the Ant-Man universe and the MCU here. And I also think that the villain Kang is really well done. Really, really liked him. So I really appreciated that. I can't wait to see more because I think this is laying the groundwork for the rest of the phases of MCU.
I agree on that. I really liked it. I don't think it's like by any means the best MCU movie, and I honestly probably think it's probably the weakest of that trilogy. But it was still a lot of fun, and I by no means think this was like, as far as it being like one of the only like Marvel movies to have like a certified rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. I think this is better than I think there's plenty of other Marvel movies. This is better than
Yeah. It's really mid-range in the MCU.
Agreed.
I'll be honest. But I still enjoyed what was in it.
I wonder if this was like an expectation thing. People were expecting it to be so great that when it wasn't that, even when it was more of a mid.
It was slightly too long for me, too.
Agreed.
It could have been shortened up. But, yeah, no spoilers, but I think it's really good.
I think part of the issue that we might be seeing is just that Marvel fatigue finally settling in.
Yeah.
And that it, even when it's mid-range, people are so kind of tired of the formula. They're saying, okay, but like this is really, like, I just didn't like it because I've seen too many of these, right?
I can get that.
And that's the impression I get. I think that was sort of the feeling I got by the end of it. Like it's not terrible as a movie, but it's also not a great movie. And do I need to see more just like comic
That's the
book
feeling
movies?
I've had after a lot of the recent Marvel projects.
Yeah.
And so I can't blame anybody for liking it, but like, am I a little just kind of burned out on it? And
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's where I stand with a lot of Marvel stuff right now. And so I don't care. I don't have the same excitement going into it. And so that's probably coloring how I feel when I watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited for the first Ant-Man movie. Like, I grew up on the crappy Avengers United They Stand cartoon, where, like, Hank Pym and Janet are the two leaders of the Avengers in that. And so I was so excited for the first Ant-Man movie. And then I was excited for the second one. And then, like, this one I totally forgot until Ryan messaged our group, like, just saw Quantumania. I'm like, oh, yeah, that came out this weekend.
And I personally think that the second Ant-Man the Wasp was probably my favorite, just because I think...
I don't
I
know,
think
that
that's
Thomas the Tank Engine moment in the first one.
That's fair. That's fair. That was a great moment. But
What other MCU film or show shows us MODOK butt cheeks, though?
Spoilers.
You just spoiled the like
Sorry.
the highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
I have nothing for this.
Well, none since he showed up in this film. However, Captain Marvel does have Goose.
True.
Okay. Yeah.
Lots of bonus points there.
Yeah. Well, so,
It's Goose or MODOK's butt.
yeah.
That's what determines a good MCU movie.
That's my criteria. So this is...
I mean, Thor Love
Imagine-
and Thunder gave us Chris Hemsworth's butt, though.
So,
Imagine if
That's-
MODOK shows up in the Marvels. Imagine if Goose throws up MODOK. You would just be so happy.
fair.
Oh, man.
I would not be opposed to, as long as, I mean, I don't want it to be written well, of course, but I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to the idea of a Marvel movie about Goose.
Well, I mean, they tried that with DC, right? They did the Super Pets film.
They can do this better.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure they actually can. Well, they have.
The crypto cartoon in the early 2000s was good. So,
Yeah.
like, DC can do it better.
But they have. What is her name? The new Hawkeye.
Kate Bishop?
Yeah, she has her dog.
Yeah.
Right, so you have the dog, you have the cat. Like you're starting to put together like a Super Friends team of
You also
animals.
have like now Cosmo is going to be. I think that's their name, Cosmo the Space Dog, right? They're
Right.
going to
Yep.
be in the next Guardians movie.
Yeah, he or she. I don't know which. I don't know what Cosmo
He in the
is.
comics, she in the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, so Cosmo's in the Christmas special.
Yeah.
So there, we have 3 animals already to team up together.
But
Plus,
will
we're-
any of them ever be as great as the Bat Cow?
no, but you could throw Rocket in there too because he's technically an animal.
Yeah.
And they don't
He
have
would
Bat
argue
Cow,
with
but they
you.
have Hell
Yeah,
Cow.
well,
Okay, but
So-
as long as we get the goats from Thor: Love and Thunder, that's all I really care
course.
about.
So we need a MCU animal movie, but also what we're saying here is we need an MCU butt cheeks movie.
You know what? Can we make it a crossover? Like, give us Henry Cavill too.
I will take that. And if he's not Superman anymore, they can find somewhere for him in the MCU.
True.
they've talked about that. There's
Yeah.
been rumors about that.
Oh, if they brought in X-Men and he was Gambit.
That'd be good.
OJ,
Not Jared Leto's Gambit.
anything else you want to
I
talk
don't know. I
about?
forgot everything I've ever known thinking about Henry Cavill as Gambit. No, that's all. That's
Henry
all for
Cavill's
me.
Gambit or Henry Cavill's Gambit with butt cheeks.
Yes.
All right, so
Gambit wearing chaps.
God.
so while
It's a Friday
OJ
afternoon.
while OJ sits over there and dreams a little dream, I'll talk about a couple of things that I played. First is Qubit. Qubit, QPID, is from the developers of the Atari 50 collection. They've been doing this series of like sort of 80s style arcade games that they've been releasing free if you subscribe to their email newsletter. So this is the newest one they released for Valentine's Day. I finally got around. I played a little bit around Valentine's Day when it came out, but I finally spent some more time with it. It's a fun little game. It very much reminds me of games I used to play on my Commodore 64. You basically have a little character, you're running through the levels, and at any time you can invert like the gravity in the level. So make yourself or the enemies kind of like fly up to the ceiling, and then you're running along the ceiling, and then you can invert it back. And so it's a good little sort of action style puzzle game. So it very much reminds me of games in the style of Lode Runner or Hard Hat Harry or Miner 2049er. Those sorts of 80s arcade and also computer games. But it's fun. And, you know, for a free game, it's worth more than the price. It's the sort of game that, you know, you would definitely pay $5 for or something. The other game that I've been playing, I think I may have mentioned this previously, but I spent a little bit more time with it. It's called Future Port 82. And Future Port 82 is a free to download attempt to recreate Epcot Center at Disney World on its premiere day in 1982. So they are creating using Unreal Engine, a 3D recreation of Epcot Center, the entire park as it existed in 1982 when it launched. So that means some of the original rides, some of the original buildings, things that have been taken down. And this is like a labor of love. Like you can tell that the people who are doing this really are like diehard Disney fans, like at a crazy level. So, for example, they go into the center buildings that have all the used to have all the future tech in them, like the House of the Future and stuff. And they've recreated the beginnings of some of those. It's still a very much work in progress. But the thing that's really cool is they even like this videos that would play on the monitors back then.
That's
somebody
awesome.
somebody had filmed that with their home video camera
Okay.
and uploaded that video, and so they've put that video up onto the screens, and of course it's what somebody filmed while they were like standing there watching this in Epcot Center. So there's people walking by in the foreground and like you see their head, like just the like silhouette of their head and everything. But like that video doesn't, as far as I know, I'm sure somewhere in the Disney vault that video exists, but it doesn't exist anywhere else. And so like they're like taking this archival material and putting it together from different people, and so like you walk through and there's signs and they have all the text from the signs, and like they've taken people's photographs from their vacation where this sign is in the background, or somebody maybe, of course, back then there was no digital photography. You didn't take hundreds of pictures on a trip. You took like 2 or 3 rolls of pictures on a trip. So you might have, 100 photos at the end of a vacation or something, right? Because it was expensive to buy film and have it developed. So they're taking like, well, look, in the background of this photo, somebody has this text on the wall. So we're going to take that and we can now apply it in here. And they're like meticulously putting this all together.
That's so cool.
Wow.
And so like the long-term goal, as I understand it, is to recreate the rides. That's really not happening yet. The Living with the Land boat ride, if you've been to Disney World and you get on the ride and you go through the greenhouse and everything, they've got the beginnings of that. They've got the restaurant upstairs that like turns as you eat and everything. And so they're putting this together, and it's just really cool because, I understand why Disney World doesn't want to put out this product about Disney World today, right? Because if you recreate Disney World as it is today, does that discourage people from wanting to actually go to Disney World? Like, I can save $3,000 and just sit at home and experience it, right? Like, here, kids, here's $60 versus $6,000 to take you to Disney World.
We have Disney World at home.
Exactly. There's your podcast title.
Just do like VR like roller coasters and stuff.
Yeah, and so like, I get why they don't want to do it, but this is a part of people's history. And if you go to Epcot Center today, it is not this stuff. A lot of this stuff has been torn down. A lot of these rides don't exist. A lot of these buildings don't exist. A lot of this experience does not exist as it existed back then. And so there's this preservation quality to this of how do we take real physical places and recreate them digitally so that people can re-experience this. And, if you're thinking 300 years ago, we don't have the archival material, photos and videos and stuff to know how to recreate that one-to-one, right? And so when games do that, it's often as an attempt, of filling in a lot of the blanks. This, we don't have to fill in too many of the blanks. We know what it looks like. We have the material. And so it's really cool. It's a really uncanny experience. As when we were kids, we went to Epcot not long after it opened, and now I went a few years ago, and it's just not the same experience because a lot of that's missing, and a lot of the like cool nerdy stuff of Epcot is kind of going away, and it's being a lot more just generic rides, which are great. I like rides, but like I kind of miss that classic Epcot experience. So this is really cool. It's free. You can search for Futureport 82. I will say that it takes a fairly robust computer to run it. And even on a robust computer, it chugs at times. So, but it's a work in progress. So you get what you get. All right. That does it for what we've been playing. So let's move on to the news. Let's see. Diablo 4 Early Access is coming March 17th to the 19th with an open beta to follow March 24th to 26th. So Diablo 4 is actually coming very soon, actually, just a little over a month.
So like I'm excited, and normally I would join the open beta and do this, but after the whole Diablo Immortal thing, I don't want to seem too eager. Like I just want to let Diablo know I'm not doing this because of that Immortal thing. I'm going to buy the game eventually, but I'm not going to buy it on release. I'm not going to play the beta.
You don't want them like setting prices of like in-game items and stuff based on how excited you are.
Yes, exactly.
I get that. Yeah, I'm excited to try this at some point. I don't know if I'll actually get into the beta or not, just because I don't know if I'll have time on those days. But yeah, that's exciting to see that actually coming out. Polymega is launching a free app in beta in March. So Polymega is a game system that you can buy different modules to plug into it and then plug your old cartridges, like your old NES or Genesis or Super Nintendo cartridges. And they're releasing, and all that runs via emulation. So they're releasing a dedicated emulation app, basically to stand in place of things like RetroArch and MAME and other sort of emulators that's supposed to be much more user-friendly. That's going to go into beta in March, and they're also going to offer an XL Cloud subscription service along with that, which my understanding is that would keep your games in the cloud. So like if you had a collection of ROMs that you legally ripped from your games that you own, right? Only if you did it legally. No downloading ROMs, kids.
Who would do that?
Wink, wink.
Can't imagine.
So my understanding is that would like put those into the cloud, and then you could access those, wherever you were, just as long as you had this app. And theoretically, this app could run on a variety of devices. So that seems cool. I guess it depends how good the emulation is in their app. I think their products have a pretty decent reputation, though they're not exactly the gold standard, I suppose. Exciting news, Pokemon Day is coming February 27th. They have a live stream announced for this. Scarlet and Violet was announced last year as part of Pokemon Day. So, the odds seem, so Pokemon Day would be Monday. That's the 27th. So it seems likely we'll get whatever the new Pokemon game they're releasing this year is.
My guess, most of what I've seen, and I've been actively trying to avoid spoilers, so I haven't seen a whole lot, but the big thing that everyone's expecting them to confirm is a Kalos DLC for Scarlet and Violet, and potentially expanding with more Mega Evolutions and bringing them in. I did see speculation of Mega Flygon, which would be insane. I have my reservations about that because I don't love that they just give Megas to Pokemon that are already incredibly powerful. Like some of what made Mega Evolutions cool was like, okay, we can go back and take Pokemon that have traditionally not been powerhouses. Mega Beedrill. Like Beedrill, powerhouse in early Gen 1, but very quickly gets outclassed. But then you give it a good Mega and it's suddenly a actual mon that people use again. So it's like, Mega Flygon would on the one hand be very cool. On the other hand, it's one of the top mons already.
Right.
But I'm excited because if they do have a Kalos DLC, that was one of the games I didn't get to play because I never had a 3DS. So I would be excited to actually get to go and experience Kalos.
Well, it seems like they usually do DLC for their big Pokemon games, their generational Pokemon games, right?
Yeah, they did for Sword and Shield. God, I guess, yeah, like some of the.
I mean, the recent
Rocket,
ones at least I feel like they have, and so
I think some of the 3DS ones did too. I know I don't remember now if it was just Sun and Moon or if it was Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon that had the Rainbow Rocket event, which I guess would have been DLC.
But it seems probably like a safe bet that we'll get something for Scarlet and Violet announced here. But like it also seems they've been doing about a game a year, so it seems we'll get some Pokemon game, like not a new generation, not like a full follow-up to Scarlet and Violet, but maybe another one of the remakes or, another sort of side shoot off game like last year or
Yeah, people want a Unova remake.
yeah,
Unova. I don't know. It's
seems like we'll get something announced there. Probably also updates on Pokemon Go as well. So
and
maybe
definitely updates on the anime.
Maybe a second gen Let's Go. That'd be nice. I'd love to see that.
Oh, I'd love that.
That would be good.
Or like maybe a more hard-boiled Detective Pikachu. Their first M-rated Pokemon game.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like a lot of it is going to be around the anime. Today they released the visuals for 2 of the new characters, including we've still got a Pikachu. We've got Captain Pikachu now.
What?
So can't wait for that hat to come on to Pokemon Go.
This I didn't hear about.
But yeah, so I have a feeling a lot of it's going to be focused around that, just because this is such a monumental time for the Pokemon anime with concluding Ash Ketchum's journey. But I also feel like we're definitely going to get Scarlet and Violet DLC. We might get a remake, and then maybe another. People talked for a while about Legends Celebi potentially being a thing, or like a second gen Let's Go, like you said. That's kind of my expectations, having avoided all spoilers.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if they've had enough time since the last Legends to do another one of those, but
Yeah.
I would assume the same team, whoever did that first one, would work on that. But I think almost certainly they are working on one.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like that seems pretty much guaranteed after the insane success of that game.
I'd like to finally see a Team Rocket game.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Could be a Team Rocket cooking game. You're making Slowpoke tails.
That's what the Kalos DLC is.
Let's see. Microsoft has signed agreements for 10 years of Call of Duty on Nintendo consoles and NVIDIA GeForce Now. So Microsoft signed contracts with both Nintendo and NVIDIA saying they will support their platforms for the next 10 years. Specifically with Nintendo, that not only included Call of Duty, but also other Microsoft games. So this is all part of trying to get their Activision acquisition pushed through, right? Like, we are going to our competitors, our biggest competitors, and saying, we will give you the crown jewel of this acquisition, Call of Duty. We'll guarantee it for the next 10 years. They've offered a very similar deal to Sony. Sony has kind of thrown that back in their face because Sony really doesn't want this deal to go through, or they want to hurt Microsoft as much as possible in the process. I think the thing that really surprises people is Call of Duty coming out on the Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult to imagine Call of Duty that on the PlayStation 5 running on a Switch and like what that experience will be like. But like they have said, that's what we're bringing. We're bringing the full Call of Duty experience. Some people have thought, well, maybe they mean they're going to bring Call of Duty Mobile or Warzone and, something that they can kind of scale down. They seem to be indicating they're going to bring a full Call of Duty, and not like a side project, but like whatever that year's big Call of Duty game is. That seems difficult to believe with the current Switch. Whatever the Switch 2 is in the next year or so, maybe that makes more sense with, but I guess we'll see. I think it's exciting to hear that Microsoft may bring some other games to the Switch, though, because they've done it in the past with the Ori games and Cuphead. So, the possibility they might be porting over some other games to the Switch would be really interesting.
Bringing some of the Xbox characters to Mario Kart.
Right.
Or putting Mario Kart characters in Call of Duty.
Maybe Banjo can finally come back. Like fully. I mean, I guess he did in Super Smash Brothers.
We need Blinks the Time Sweeper. There's a deep cut for you of Blinks the Time Sweeper. let's see. Double Fine has released a 32-part, 22-hour Psychonauts 2 documentary. So you can
That's a lot of twos.
You can find this on their YouTube channel. It's 32 parts, 22 hours completely. Some of the episodes are like 20 to 30 minutes. Some of the episodes are 2 hours long. But combined, they add up and chronicle the complete story of development, or well, I guess even first pitching Psychonauts 2 because they crowdfunded that originally, the development of the game, and then all the way through to the release. They have done this before with some of their games. That's just really cool. Like if you want to know what game development is actually like, if you want to demystify it for yourself, the last one they did for Broken Age, it was really insightful because it was a whole lot of people just kind of banging their head into the wall, and like they showed the ugly parts of game development. And, so like if you really want to know what game development is like, I think there's very few better outlets than these documentary series that they're doing.
Yeah, I feel like, when the Lord of the Rings movies came out and Peter Jackson included in the extras like the entire process, like that became something that people studying film, like the minute that you said you wanted to go into making movies, go watch those. That is your introductory course. Right. And I feel like stuff like this can be that for game development.
Heads up that Cocaine Bear, which opens this weekend, also has an online game, a take on Pac-Man, where you run around a maze collecting cocaine and eating people.
Banjo is not doing so good, y'all. That's why he needs to come back.
He's got a problem.
And Cocaine Bear stars celebrated character actress Margot Martindale.
He beat me to it. Because as soon as you said celebrated character actress, I'm like, I know who I want to joke about. I'm like, nope, that's who he's talking about.
And what I will tell you is if you play the Cocaine Bear game, wear headphones or turn the sound down, because some of the audio in the game does not sound like it's a video game. It sounds like it might be some other type of video that you would be watching and not want people to hear.
Oh, my.
Personal entertainment.
Yeah, personal entertainment. So when you're killing somebody, they may make sounds that are more closely related to personal entertainment.
Yeah, we'll leave that there. Audience can fill in the blank. Let's see. Evo, the big fighting game tournament, fighting game championship, has announced their lineup for 2023. So the games being played at Evo this year will be Street Fighter 6, Guilty Gear Strive. We should note that's the premiere of Street Fighter 6, at a big fighting game tournament. Dragon Ball Fighters, Tekken 7, King of Fighters 15, Melty Blood Type Lumina, which
is that's just such a great name.
A game I have never heard of.
Yes,
all the rest of these I'm familiar with.
It wins, all right? It just wins for that.
Say, the title alone.
Melty Blood.
Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate. And I feel like Melty Blood is one of, and I'm not even 100% sure. I feel like it's one of those anime fighting games, and like 50 of those come out, I feel like every month, and I've never heard of them, and I have no idea what they're about. They're not like Dragon Ball or something where I'm like, okay, I know what that is, even if I don't watch it. I have no idea what Melty Blood is. I'm assuming anime something, but Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate and Ultimate Marvel versus
Ultimate Marble?
Yeah. Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. So that's the lineup for this year. Obviously, Street Fighter 6 will be pretty exciting just to see that for the first time at a real competitive level. And then, some of those others are diehard fan favorites. Obviously, Marvel versus Capcom 3 is always a favorite. So, let's see. Blumhouse, the film production company that is notable for making low-budget indie, well, I guess they're not indie anymore, but low-budget horror films, is getting into game development. They're investing in indie horror games. So this just seems like a perfect match, I guess. Yeah. They make low-budget movies. They're going to make low-budget video games. All of them designed to traumatize you. Super Mario movie is getting a direct on March 9th. So March 9th, you will get the final trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie. We will finally get more than 2 or 3 words of Chris Pratt's Mario.
Why would they do it on March 9th and not March 10th?
Oh, that's a good point.
That you always abbreviate as Mar 10 and it looks like Mario. Why? Who at Nintendo made this decision? Because
Chris Pratt, damn it, beat me to it.
So one thing that I heard about this, somebody speculated, was that it may actually be March 10th in Japan.
Oh, okay.
Because of the timeline, and that it's March 9th here. So
okay. That makes sense.
But I agree. March 10th makes a whole lot more sense.
It should be Mario Day.
But it's also Nintendo, and nothing Nintendo does ever makes any logical sense.
Well, that's fair.
Also, to be fair, the trailer that I saw before Quantumania was pretty good, and I was like, oh, this is something I'd want to watch if it weren't Chris Pratt as Mario. But I may watch it to support the other people.
I'll say, at this point, I'm going for everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, Jack Black as Bowser,
Yeah.
that's got me.
Speaking of problematic video games, HBO Max is reportedly developing a Hogwarts Legacy series.
Why?
This comes from Giant Freaking Robot, which has a history of breaking these sorts of stories and everything. So, there's some logical sense to this, I think. I think the Beast movies have basically petered out. They're not going to do any more. Those are the Fantastic Beast movies. You can't go back and remake the original series yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they will someday, I assume. And so if you want to continue to do stuff with Harry Potter, where do you go with it? And probably going back into the past is the least controversial thing you can probably do.
And on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, it's been, the third book came out in, 2000, 2001? So it's been 23 years that we've been asking for a Marauders TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is a new place for them to kind of start over, and they're not dealing with any of the actual characters from the books or anything. So, or from the movie series, the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Yeah, it is an opportunity for them to basically do Harry Potter fan fiction,
right?
Where they're using that world, but none of the characters that Rowling created, none of the plot points that she created.
And Hogwarts is, I think, a bigger part of that story than people often give it credit for. Because whenever they've moved away from Hogwarts is when that series seems to have suffered, right? And the Fantastic Beasts movies, when we moved completely away from Hogwarts, eventually in that last one they took it back to Hogwarts. And I think in part because they're like, well, this is what people really like. Right? And if we don't have those original characters, then how do we ground this and make it feel like Harry Potter? And Hogwarts is the location that feels like Harry Potter, right?
Yeah. Hogwarts is also the least problematic wizard school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
which is, it's a low bar, but yeah.
So, why
within the Harry Potter universe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, why are they doing this? Well, the game had the biggest launch in Europe since Red Dead Redemption 2 outside of FIFA or Call of Duty. It sold over 12 million copies in its first 2 weeks. It is the biggest single-player game ever on Twitch. So this has been a wildly successful game for them. I know we've talked about the controversy surrounding it. We've talked about our personal feelings. We don't need to we don't need to go back over that again. But there's an audience for these games, right? There's a pent-up demand for Harry Potter stuff. I don't think that has anything to do with J.K. Rowling. I think this is in spite of her for most of the audience. This is a childhood fantasy fulfilled for a generation, and including people my age, right, who didn't necessarily grow up with it, but certainly was a big part of their lives and everything. So, you know,
Harry Potter's 2 months older than me. So it's like I'm that age where they were.
The books are a couple months older than me.
Rude.
Love you.
But yeah, so yeah, like even those of us who read them later really connected with it. Like people that are mine and Justin's ages, even though I don't do anything with them anymore, that was part of the big thing that drew me in when I was participating in Harry Potter universe.
Yeah, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery has said, as the only studio scaled in gaming, we see it as a meaningful differentiator and a substantial opportunity. That's Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery. The thing to remember is Warner Brothers, prior to this merger, and even right after it, all the indications were they were trying to sell off their game division. Right? They wanted to get out of video games, and big hits like this are maybe turning that tide, right? And this comment directly from the head of the company seems to be like, no, we are doubling down. We are focusing on games because we see this as not only an area where we can obviously make a lot of money selling video games, but then even adapt those video games into films and television.
Well, because isn't Last of Us also on HBO Max?
Yeah. Yeah, which of course they didn't make that game, but
but it makes sense to give it to HBO Max to develop a game when they have the most successful video game adaptation TV show ever.
Right, and obviously the success of that was probably making them go, hey, there's an audience for these video game adaptations. We should maybe be doing this. Like, I would... I don't think this will happen because of everything that's going on with the DC film universe, but like a few years ago, before things had kind of been attempted to be strained out, I could see this leading to like an Arkham Asylum series, right? Like that would make a whole lot of sense in this situation. So anyways, that's your weekly Harry Potter update, I guess. Other WB news, they in an earnings call, they announced Mortal Kombat 12 will get released this year. So that was kind of a weird way to announce that game. I think everybody knew that game was coming, but to have it confirmed that way, it sounds like it'll be out this year sometime. They also announced, and this is not so much game related, except who the companies involved are. WB is working with Embracer on new Lord of the Rings films. So if you remember, we had a story a couple months back or so about Embracer had bought the film rights to the Lord of the Ring franchise. And we said, well, Embracer is a video game company. They're not going to make movies, right? They're certainly going to have to partner with a movie studio. Of course, they partnered with Warner Brothers, who has made all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films, at least of the new series, right? Not the classic animated films.
The Peter Jackson ones.
And they're going to be making new films, so tangentially game-related.
I will say, I saw this, and I just felt a pit of ice in my stomach of dread, and then I looked it up, and they're not remaking Lord of the Rings.
No, they're
expanding into more Middle-earth lore.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I am very excited because I feel like it's too early to remake Lord of the Rings. Those are up there among the best movies, the best book-to-movie adaptations I've ever seen in my life. And this is for a series that is very close to my heart. And it's too soon to remake the trilogy, but I am very excited to see more Middle-earth lore come out in movie form.
And last thing is, yesterday, Sony had a State of Play event where they showed off some new games. Specifically, they had some new VR games. Ones that I thought were particularly interesting were the Foglands, Synapse, Journey to Foundation, which is based on the Isaac Asimov novel, and Before Your Eyes. I don't know if any of you got to see any of this.
I didn't get a chance in that.
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Yeah, so Synapse particularly looked pretty cool. It was stylish. The world is like black and white, but then there's like flashes of color in it. And very stylish shooter. It sort of looked like you were almost like playing in first person John Wick or something. And Before Your Eyes, which apparently is already out on VR systems, so there's eye tracking in the PSVR 2, so it can actually see where you're looking on the screen, and it can also measure when you blink. And so when you blink in this game, it moves the scene forward in time, like it jumps ahead. So just an interesting, cool-looking game based on the technology, using that tech to like make it more, new, cool ways of interacting with the game. And it also made me think, like, the Doctor Who episode with the Weeping Angels. Like, there's got to be like a game that uses this technology.
Yeah.
Right. So
don't blink.
Because the Oculus Doctor Who game has the Weeping Angels in it, and it's just when you're not looking at them. But I think adding blinking into that too would. Can
you imagine how creepy that would be?
Yeah. I would need, from the movie with the Eighth Doctor, the thing that the Master puts on him to keep his eyes open. That's what I would need at that point. Yeah. Just like don't even let me think about the idea of blinking.
Right. Yeah.
They showed off a game called Chai, which is kind of an island-based platformer, 3D platformer. It looked really cool and fun, relaxing, and that's coming to PS Plus game catalog day one. So if you're subscribed to that second middle tier of the PS Plus service, you will get that, sort of like they did with Stray. So that's cool to see more games coming day one to that service and everything. They showed off a game called Humanity, which this game just looks cool. It is basically you play a ghost dog, the spirit of a dog. So this is just what it looks like. And there are large numbers of people, and you're kind of leading them through this 3D world, lemming style. Like you're telling them, turn right here, and like you're having to move ahead of them and everything. And then it just keeps escalating into more and more absurd situations. Like sometimes the humans are flying through the air, and sometimes they're forming tornadoes, and sometimes they all have lightsabers, and they're like charging one another. And you're controlling all this through using this dog. And then they show that you can like build your own levels and share the levels with other players, and it just has a cool look. It looks insane, but it looks really exciting. It may not appeal to everyone, but it's the sort of game when I saw it, I was like, okay, that looks really cool.
It appeals to me.
That sounds like such chaotic joy.
I would like to see a lemming playing this and killing all the humans off.
And we'll get you back for those films. This next game, Ryan, I immediately thought of you. It's called Goodbye Volcano High.
Oh my God.
And the best way I can describe it is a rhythm visual novel with dinosaur teams.
So is this like set in like the universe of that dinosaur show Disney did? Or ABC did?
Oh, no.
The baby that was like, not the mama.
So this is like, it has a cool like animated style to it and everything, and it very much looks like teenage angst visual novel. And so you are like interacting with these characters, and it's fully voice acted, and they're talking to each other, and they're like dinosaurs who are standing on a rooftop looking out and smoking a cigarette while they talk about how disillusioned at life they are.
Land Before Time went in a really weird direction.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like Doki Doki Literature Club meets Land Before Time.
You got it.
I want to play now.
But much better animated. So like looking like very much full like animation, full 2D animation, unlike Doki Doki Literature Club. And but then there are rhythm elements because you're in a band. And so
add Guitar Hero.
Right. Yeah. And so it's just a weird looking game, but like also like that makes it kind of interesting, right? Because it doesn't look really like anything else I've seen. And so I think people who are into rhythm games, people who are into visual novels, if you're into both of those, you've got to play this game because it just seems like right up that alley.
Please say Don Bluth is behind this.
So is this a PS5 VR exclusive or PS2 VR2 exclusive?
No, this is not VR.
Oh, okay.
This and Humanity and Chai are you can just regularly play. Humanity does have a VR mode in it.
Okay.
But Goodbye Volcano High is not VR at all, as far as I could tell.
Okay, because I was saying that maybe this would be something that would have me spend that $500 just to see that.
Pink Floyd's The Wall. Isn't there a song named Goodbye Blue Sky? I wonder if this is at all like playing on that.
I could not even begin to tell you. When this started out, like at first, they're so stylized. The dinosaurs, I was like, what are these animals supposed to be? And like, is that supposed to be a dolphin? Like, what's going on here with these? And then, like, as it goes on, you start to see more of them, and you're like, okay, these are dinosaurs. That's what this is all supposed to be. Because it's got a very kind of stylized look to it and everything, but it very much looks like Saturday morning cartoon. So, anyways, cool looking game, particularly right if either of those genres are your genre. They also showed off about 15 minutes of Suicide Squad. So if you like the Arkham games, this does not look like the Arkham games. First off, it's all third-person shooting for the most part. There's very little melee action. And so you are King Shark, you are, you're Captain Boomerang, you're, I forget the other two characters. But anyways, you're just shooting people. A lot of the movement looks really cool in it. So like it's a lot of fast, kind of like smooth movement and everything, and you're like through this open world environment. So that all looks really cool.
But definitely one to watch a Let's Play rather than by yourself.
Like this is based on watching a few minutes of it, right? So maybe when it comes out, everybody will rave about it, right? Maybe everybody wants to play Harley Quinn with a sniper rifle. That just does nothing for me personally, right? That just looks like a generic shooter that you put a coat of DC paint over.
Yeah.
And
I know.
That's how I came out of watching this. But, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They made 3 really fantastic Batman games, though I think the first one, Arkham Asylum, is still the best. I think they kind of progressively get worse from there. So maybe this is progressively getting worse again, or maybe this will surprise me. So
I don't want to shoot guns as King Shark. Like, I want to bite heads off.
Yeah.
This is not the game that I wanted from what I saw.
Let me play Harley Quinn and let me have the hammer. Gosh darn it.
So she may actually have the hammer, and I gotta admit, she may have even in the video like used the hammer, but like most of what they were doing was shooting.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's very much a shooter. So
well, hopefully it'll be something like maybe Dead Island where you can do melee or shooting in that third person.
Yeah, I mean, but the coolness of those Batman Arkham games is like dropping down from above into the middle of a group of thugs, and then like you taking them all out, like using Batman's like fighting skills and maybe throwing a batarang here or there. Standing off at afar with a sniper rifle just doesn't look fun to me.
And
again, there's characters for that.
Yeah,
King Shark, Harley Quinn, not necessarily those characters.
Deadshot is in this, and he makes sense.
Deadshot would make sense, yeah.
But when you're giving people those other characters, it feels like you're teasing that you're going to do other things, and they're like, nope, they're all going to do the same thing as Deadshot. Like,
and that's how it looks. It looks like everyone is Deadshot, and so that doesn't look interesting to me. But again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
I look forward to the game afterwards where Deadshot has an identity crisis when everybody starts taking up his thing and like, who am I?
That does it for news. So for our big question this week, President's Day was Monday, and we're going to pick our Mount Rushmore of gaming characters. So there are 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. We're going to pick 4 gaming characters to go on our Mount Rushmore. So this is basically, if we had to pick 4 video game characters to go up on a mountain to represent video games, who would those 4 characters be?
So I think the first obvious choice is Jack from Strangers in Paradise because he died over and over and over for us.
He died for our sins.
Multiple times.
and then brought back chaos. So
Have you
this
heard
could
the
be
good
Mount
word
Chaos.
of chaos?
How are those sermons going, by the way, though, Jay?
Wonderfully. Wonderfully.
And
All right, so we have a nomination for Jack.
Enjoy our new Sunday morning podcast. The Word of Chaos with OJ.
concluded with beat up in the parking lot every week. I mean, for real, I feel like Pikachu has to be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Pikachu, I could see, particularly with all the Pokemon and everything.
Yeah.
He seems like an important character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to be one, I think.
So do we put Mario and Sonic or just one of them?
Well, that was because I think I said this earlier. I thought of three, and it was Mario, Sonic, and Pikachu.
Right?
Right.
'Cause the
Mario has to be there.
Mario has to be there. Sonic has to be there for Sega representation.
Yeah, and like
Sega representation.
I would have been 100% Sonic during the console wars. I don't know so much now though. Well, I mean, it's not a bad choice, but I think he's a little less than he was before.
See, here's my pushback on that though. Also, keep in mind the day and age that we're living in with video game movie adaptations. How big the Sonic movies were for that.
That's fair.
So between his legacy with the console wars and what he's done with movie adaptations, with Sonic Prime now.
So while we're just throwing out names, does Master Chief go on there? Because there was a time he definitely went on there. But Master Chief's fallen on hard times.
Talking about butt cheeks.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think Master Chief probably has fallen out of relevance enough to not be there.
Yeah.
I would say.
That's hard.
Yeah.
I think you may be right, but that's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
So who else goes on here? Do we put a Mega Man or Crash Bandicoot or
I mean, we all know who I'm going to say.
Waluigi?
No, Gex. Obviously, it's Gex. Like, that's where platformers peaked.
I
I don't remember much about the Gex games. I played one a little bit and one few times, and when I was a kid, I don't remember them well.
Okay, but Waluigi, hear me out. If there was a Mount Rushmore of gaming characters, Waluigi would come and destroy one of them and replace it with his face.
Well, Waluigi wouldn't be invited.
Yes, exactly.
But he would show up anyway.
Right.
Super Smash Brothers all over again. he would break the spot with Luigi's face on it and put a giant paper mache badly done copy of his face.
I think part of me wants Samus to be the fourth one because Metroidvanias and
Yeah, Samus
Samus
is on
being
my list.
so incredible. But then I'm looking at him like we have 3 Nintendo characters.
And
and we didn't even think of Link.
We didn't say
Cloud.
Link.
Or Cloud.
and I had Pac-Man here,
Also good.
Cocaine Bear.
I mean, that's just Banjo having a bad day.
Do we put one of the Belmonts on the mountain?
That was my other thought. Was
Yeah.
like one of the Belmonts or Alucard.
I would put Simon as the original.
It's the representative
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the entire Belmont. And if that's the case, then maybe we put Simon instead of Samus because he
Yeah.
can represent.
Yeah.
But then we're taking the only woman off. So
Yeah.
I kind of feel a little awkward about that.
I mean, Pikachu could go either way. Pikachu could be...
That's true. Is Pikachu a male?
Ash's Pikachu is a male, but there are plenty of female Pikachus.
Yeah.
You would have to do something to make sure that the tail was included.
Are we going to put a bow?
It could be Ms. Pac-Man.
That's true. That is
That
the better
is.
Pac-Man.
Yeah.
So maybe we do Miss Pac-Man. So Miss Pac-Man, Simon, Mario. That's 3.
When did we take Sonic off?
Well, we haven't, but like those are 3 that we talked about.
We
and
didn't
so-
take Sonic off. Also, 2006 did that. Boom.
What about E.T. though? Okay.
You know, I'm trying to think like what would be the biggest franchise today? Do we put a Call of Duty soldier on there?
No.
A gun?
God.
Does that take the Lincoln spot?
Oh, man.
Oh, God. That got grim.
Oh, man.
Send all your angry emails to Justin. Kirby?
I like Kirby. If it was a Nintendo Mountain, maybe
Yeah.
Kirby
Yeah,
gets on
I'll say
there.
that's kind of my thing. Is like I love Kirby to death, but up against when we're cutting down to 4, up against like Mario and Pikachu.
And Sonic even.
I'd pick Kirby over Sonic personally.
And so personally, for me, I would put Mog, but I don't think is it in general overall because Final Fantasy has a lot of characters that could be up there, but I don't think
That's true. We don't have a Moogle or a Chocobo.
Yeah,
a Chocobo probably I'd put over Moogle.
that's fair. But again, you could do Fat Chocobo.
There you go. There you go.
Favorite, yeah. Yeah,
There's Lara Croft.
it's hard. Yeah. Damn it.
I was
I
like,
don't know if we're
surprised
gonna be able to make this.
I'm
list
surprised
of 4.
nobody said her yet. Like,
I don't think Laura Croft gets on there. Not anymore. At the height of her popularity, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like she's even less relevant than Master Chief at this point.
I would actually say Master Chief is only more relevant because of the TV show versus Lara Croft. But
It's a
but
very
with
bad
that said, I
show.
also don't think that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're both equally
Yeah.
sort of.
They're on
Not a
Mount
downturn.
Rush less.
But also including that, then what about like Joel and Ellie?
Yeah, but I think you'd
I
put.
don't know if there's the legacy for that.
I think you'd put Nathan Drake on there before you put the 2 of them.
sorry.
And I wouldn't put Nathan Drake on there. I don't
Yeah.
think Nathan Drake deserves on there.
I think if we're looking at a Mount Rushmore video game characters, there needs to be the legacy of it.
What about Qbert?
Oh,
We didn't say Donkey Kong. That's another Nintendo character.
I'll say I feel like Mario,
Mario.
and Donkey Kong go together.
Yeah, because you could just put the 4 main Mario characters on there.
Maybe we should just
Yeah.
put like a Tetris block for one of them.
I actually thought of that. I was like a Tetris block for.
All right, we don't mean this. This could be a whole podcast episode,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
need to get through this. I think Mario's a lock,
Yeah.
right? I think
Yeah.
we all agree Mario belongs on there. So
I'm kidding.
We know you want Waluigi instead, Ryan, but
No, I want Bidoof on there.
so who else do we think is a lock at this point?
Professor Oak.
I would say Pikachu is a lock.
Yeah.
Pikachu or Sonic? If you can only get one of those 2.
Pikachu. Come on. It's Pikachu.
I mean,
The problem is that we don't
For
have
variety of
anything
represent.
specific.
Yeah, for variety of representation to not be multiple Nintendo characters, I would say Sonic.
Yeah, but then you're like favoring like platformers with like white gloves that side scroll and stuff.
platformist,
Yeah.
you genreist.
What is it that like Tommy Tallarico would call people gaming racists?
Yeah.
Like,
Gosh.
I think we need another episode just to talk about this because this is a little more than a big question. So I think we can have an initial one and then have another.
Have a
So we're going
follow-up.
to pick one character per week? We could do that.
Okay.
and say Mario goes on this week. Mario is our choice for this
Okay.
week. And
We
then
could
I'm down for that.
we could do a Super Smash Brothers tournament to see who.
all right,
Yes.
we'll do that.
So Mario is our first face on the.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario, I think that's an easy one everyone can agree on. He is probably the most influential video game character, like at least over a long stretch of time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mario is your first head on the Mount Rushmore of video games. And next week, we'll decide who is the second face that gets on there.
And
We have-
Wyatt Sereth.
Yes. But we obviously have lots of
Yeah,
names
It's not a bad argument.
to think about. All right, that does it for this week. I want to thank OJ, Alicia, and Ryan. OJ just got some bad news from the look of his reaction via text message. So
No, it was Ryan mentioning Aerith, and I'm like, well,
Aerith would really have the Lincoln spot. Both.
See, I'm not really sure to decide who's on there. You
that's
see
worse
whatever-
than my joke. I feel like. So also a possible title for this week's episode, The Lincoln Spot. Which out of context just sounds dirty. So
Yeah. Maybe not.
thank you for everyone for being here and for tuning in. Also check out salukigames.com for back episodes and other content. We'll be back next week with another episode and we'll catch you then.